Good Year 12s. We are nearly towards the end of the text. I'm on page 57, and this is the Exodus of the play Women of Troy. So, page 57, um, Exodus. Talthybius, all company commanders with orders to fire the city. There is no need to wait any longer till your torches burn out in your hands. Burn everything down. When we have reduced the whole lot to ashes, then we can celebrate, leave Troy, and go home. So here Talthybius is giving orders to the commanders, to the guards that fire the city. There is no need to wait any longer till your torches burn out in your hands. And Talthybius is asking the officers to burn everything down. When we have reduced the whole lot to ashes, when we reduce the whole city of Troy to ashes, then we can celebrate, leave Troy, and go home. Again, we could see the hurriness of Talthybius. Talthybius always is so eager to finish off his task and move on. So, with Astyanax's burial completed, Talthybius is actually ordering the soldiers to burn everything down so that he can celebrate, leave Troy, and go home. My other orders concern you women. And now Talthybius is turning towards women of Troy, and telling them, my other orders concern you women. As soon as you hear the sound of the trumpet, follow these officers along that path. So as soon as you hear the sound of the trumpet, you have to follow the officers along that path. They will lead you to the Greek ships, and they will lead you to the Greek ships. You old woman, you are the unluckiest of the lot. You must go too, with these officers of Odysseus's regiment. You must leave your old home. You are designated one of his slaves. Look at the repetition of the word old. Talthybius is referring to Hecuba and stressing on that point that she is old. You old woman, you are the unluckiest of the lot. You must go too, with these officers of Odysseus's regiment. You must leave your old home. Again, stressing on that old, because there's nothing now. Everything is old. She is no more queen. So again, old woman, old home. You are designated one of his slaves. Hecuba. So this is how it ends. My crown of pain, all my sufferings, each new loss worse than the last, till it comes to this: to leave my homeland, to leave my city, to watch them burning it to the ground. Come on then, old, worn out feet, make one last effort, so that I can say my last goodbyes to my poor city in its death agony. Troy, while you lived, you were the greatest and most glorious of all the cities of Asia. Now they are destroying even your name. They are burning you to the ground and taking us into exile to be slaves. O you gods! But why bother to call on them? We called before and they didn't hear us. They ignored our prayers. Well then, why not run into the flames? What could be better for me, the queen of this burning city, than to die in its embrace and make its funeral pyre my own? So here you could see that Hecuba says, my crown of pain. And look at the symbolism there, crown of pain, highlighting that she is still regal and still, even though she is not royal, still her pain is symbolized as a crown, my crown of pain, the utmost pain, all my sufferings, each new loss worse than the last, till it comes to this: to leave my homeland, to leave my city. And look at the repetition of that word, my homeland, my city, to watch them burning it to the ground. Come on then, old worn out feet. And now she's asking her own old feet to be strong. For what? To make one last effort, so that I can say my last goodbyes to my poor city in its death agony. To my, again, repetition of my poor city. And look here, Euripus is trying to personify the city of Troy. Euripus is trying to give city of Troy a human attribute. So Troy is personified into a living thing because it is dying here. And to show that the city of Troy is dying, Euripus has used that personification, my poor city, in its death agony. So city of Troy is considered as a living thing because it is dying. It is its death. It is in its death agony now. Troy, while you lived, you were the greatest and most glorious of all the cities of Asia. So while you lived, you were one of the greatest cities all over the cities of Asia. Now they are destroying even your name, again personification. Now they are destroying even the name of the city of Troy. So even your name. So considering Troy as a human being, even your name they are destroying. They're burning you to the ground and taking us into exile to be slaves. So they are burning the city of Troy and they are taking us, all the women of Troy, to be slaves. Oh, you gods. So she naturally calls upon God, oh, you gods. And then she immediately thinks, but why bother to call on them? What's the point in calling them? We called God before, but they didn't. Why bother to call on? We called before and they didn't hear us. So Hekiba realizes that. So a point of realization and agnosis, she realizes that there's no point in calling gods. There's no point in calling out gods for help because we have done that many times and they didn't hear us. They ignored our prayers. Hekiba feels as if the gods have ignored their prayers. Well, then, why not run into the flames? So now, when she lost even the last hope that the gods will help her, she feels really sad and she feels that there is no other way for her to rather than to run into the flames. She is trying to die. She is trying to run into the flames. Why not run into the flames? What could be better for me, the queen of this burning city? Again, burning city. It's not any city of Troy, it's burning city. I'm the queen of this burning city. They what could be better for me, the queen of this burning city, than to die in its embrace, again personifying, I am the queen of the burning Troy, so personifying Troy, and I am going to jump into it, or I'm going to run into the flames so that I can die in the embrace of the city of Troy, so that to die in its embrace and make its funeral pyre my own. So the whole throughout that passage, Hecuba is trying to personify the city of Troy because for her, city of Troy is like a person because she feels so much of belongingness to the city of Troy. So what you could actually see here is Hecuba is actually wondering if she could call out to the gods, but then she reflects that she had asked for help, but many times there was no response. So, and that is the reason why she immediately after an afterthought, she's saying there's no point in calling out to God because they've already ignored the prayers. So, in a clear shift from the earlier claims, earlier we have seen that Hecuba has claimed that it is better to live as a slave than to die. So there is a clear shift from that point of view now, and she now says that Hecuba attempts to die now. Hecuba says that it is better to run into flames. So there is a clear shift in her focus. Once she told to Andromache that it is better to live because at least people living have hope. It is better to live than to die. But now at this stage, when she has got no more hope, she says that it is let me run into the flames. So that indicates that even the last hope of salvation, which she clung on to at the start of the play, has disappeared. She had a little bit of hope, which she did clung on to, but all that is, which she did cling on to, but that's all gone now. All that hope is disappeared. So when the last hope is disappeared, she feels to die or she is ready to die. So there is a shift in her point of view. So don't forget that shift. And it is and again it says that she is ready to jump, she is ready to die. And then what happens after that? Talthybius, poor woman, you have suffered so much, it has unbalanced you like an ecstasy of pain. Simile. So see, you have suffered a lot and that has completely destroyed you. You have lost balance. It's like an ecstasy of pain. Hang on to her. And Talthybius is saying to the other officers, hang on to her, hold on to her. You need not treat her with kid gloves. You shouldn't. So he's asking the officers to hang on to her, hold on to her, because she's no longer even she no longer even owns her own life because Odysseus does. She belongs to Odysseus now, so he will not let her die until he is actually ready. So being a soldier, being a messenger, Talthybius wanted to do his duty, and he doesn't want Hecuba to die because she is actually promised to be Odysseus's concubine. So that's why Talthybius is asking other soldiers, hold on to her, hang on to her. You need not treat her with kid gloves. That's an idiom. To treat someone with kid gloves. What does it mean? To deal someone very gently and carefully. So that's an idiom. Euripides uses an idiom which is known to everyone. So you need not treat her with any kind of gentleness because she belongs to Odysseus now, and your orders are to deliver her personally into his hands. Your orders are to deliver Hecuba personally into the hands of Odysseus. So don't let her jump into the flames. Hold on to her, hang on to her. Okay, so at this point, we don't know. It is really unclear whether Talthybius is actually preventing Hecuba from throwing herself into the flames because of his compassion or because he does not wish to displease his superiors. We don't know why Talthybius is actually preventing Hecuba from dying. When Hecuba was about to jump into the fire, Talthybius says that, no, don't let her do that. And we don't know whether Talthybius is saying that because of his compassion for Hecuba, or if she really want, or if Talthybius really want to obey his superiors and give Hecuba safely to Odysseus' hands. So not sure about that. Anyway, let us look into the next lines. So Hecuba belongs to Odysseus now, and your orders are to deliver her personally into his hands. Hecuba, howl, howl, howl. Son of Cronos, god of Troy, father of our homeland, do you see? Darkness's children don't deserve such a fall. So Hecuba is invoking even gods. Hecuba invokes gods and asks them, Son of Cronos, god of Troy, father of our homeland, do you see? Do you see all this? So Hecuba actually wonders if Zeus is actually watching the destruction of Troy. Is he actually seeing all this? Chorus, he sees and does nothing. Now Chorus says that yes, the god Zeus sees all this, but he's doing nothing. He's not doing anything to prevent us from this terrible situation. So the chorus responds that he has seen it, Zeus has seen it, but the city is gone and there is nothing left to destroy. He sees and does nothing. Troy, our beautiful city, no longer exists. Again, personification. Troy, our beautiful city, no longer exists. They are burning it all. And look at the repetition, burning it all. Hecuba, howl, howl, howl. Troy is burning. Every house is in flames. Even the citadel, walls and domes. The hungry flames are consuming it all. So they both, even the chorus and the women of Troy as well as Hecuba, they are crying because the city of Troy is burning. So Euripides is trying to convey to us that the gods have truly, finally, and completely forsaken the burning city of Troy. Similarly, they seem to have forsaken even the city's women who are emotionally heartbreaking down as the city is literally consumed, emotionally heartbreaking and down as the city is literally consumed by flames. Although throughout the play, the women have been listing the indignities they have been forced to endure, this final burning of Troy takes away once and for all everything that ever mattered to them, their homes, their memories, their families, and even their freedom. So that's why they are saying Troy is burning, every house is in flames, even the citadel, walls, and domes, the hungry flames are consuming it all. So the flames are consuming everything. It's not just the city of Troy, it's even our homes, our memories, our families, and our freedom in the city of Troy. Chorus, the black wing of heaven shadows the dying houses of the murdered Trojans. Smoke is their funeral pall. So smoke is like a funeral pall. Pall means it's like a garment, a burial garment in which the corpse is actually wrapped. So here chorus says that smoke is like for them a funeral pall. Hecuba, my beloved city, my children's nurse, again personification, calling city of Troy as her children's nurse because it was the city of Troy who have helped them to rear up her children. My beloved city, my children's nurse, Chorus, weep louder, weep long. Hecuba, my children, do you hear my mother's voice? Now Hecuba is addressing children and asking, do you hear your mother's voice? But the chorus says, cry to the dead, can they hear you? Can they hear your song? Hecuba, let me kneel, lay my old legs on the ground, and my old woman's hands, let them be the earth. Look at the emphasis on the word old, emphasizing that Hecuba is really old and tired of all this. She has suffered a lot. Chorus, let me kneel beside you. Let my voice sound in the dark halls of Hades, the kingdom of death. Husband, can you hear me underground? Now the chorus, they are crying out to their dead husbands. Hecuba, like a load they are stealing us. They are all crying together and they are saying and they are talking to their dead husbands and crying to their dead husbands and saying to them that these Spartans or these Greeks, they are looting us. They like loot. They are stealing us. Simile. Chorus, let the dead hear our pain. Let the dead hear our pain. So their suffering is so great that they even wish that at least the dead hear their pain. So to show that intensity of their suffering, Euripus is using that phrase, let the dead hear our pain. Hecuba, to live in their slave huts, to be a slave. Now we are about to live as slaves. Chorus, home gone, country gone, so everything is gone. No more home now, country, the city of Troy is gone. Hecuba, Priam, you are dead, but you have no grave, no friend to weep or keen. You have got no friend to weep or keen. Can you hear my anguished mourn? Can you even hear my anguished mourn? Chorus, he hears nothing. The black veil of death has darkened his sacred eyes with the desecration of the earth. So the black veil of death has darkened his sacred eyes. So he can't hear anything. He can't see anything because the black veil of death has darkened his sacred eyes. Hecuba, my beloved country, temples of the gods. Chorus, weep louder, weep long. The fire consumes and the spear invades. Chorus, soon anonymous earth, like a forgotten song. Everything will be forgotten, like a forgotten song. Hecuba, a cloud of dust darkens the sky, like a shadowy wing blots out my old home. Look at the repetition of the word old. How many times they, both the women of Troy as well as Hecuba, has used the word old, because it's nothing is permanent, it's all gone. A cloud of dust darkens the sky. Look at this imagery, like a shadowy wing. Simile, blots out my old home. Chorus, soon no one will remember the city. Soon no one will remember the city. So the hopelessness of the women of Troy. Everything is dying, even the name. Everything is dying. There is no place on earth called Troy. There is not even a sign that there was actually a city of Troy here. Everything is gone. Everything is dying. Even the name. Hecuba, do you hear that sound? Chorus, Troy has fallen. And the chorus says that, yes, Troy has fallen. So Hecuba is asking, do you hear that sound? And chorus says, Troy has fallen. So Hecuba and the chorus describe, they were describing the flames and smoke of the burning city. And immediately they pause when they hear a crash, the citadel has fallen. This signals to Hecuba that all is lost. When the chorus says that the city Troy has fallen, that signals to Hecuba that all is lost. She stands and readies herself. She is ready to mourn and then go forward as a slave into a slave's life. So as the citadel falls in the center of Troy, so does the last of Hecuba's resistance crumple. Her whole hope has gone. She is crumpling down. Her city burns, mirroring the last of her willpower is eroding. So when the city burns, her willpower is also eroding. All the willpower that she had until the last minute is eroding now. After struggling against her fate for the duration of the play, she is finally ready to succumb to the fate of her and the other women of Troy, who is going to be a slave. So everything is burning down. Even their courage and hope, and everything is eroding. Hecuba, it's like an earthquake. Simile, everything is shaking. Their whole body is shaking. Their whole courage and power is gone. Chorus, the city sinks, we will drown. The city is sinking. We will soon drown. Hecuba, into the abyss. My legs are trembling, but I won't fall. So Hecuba says that into the abyss we are falling, into the depth we are falling. My legs are trembling, but I won't fall. Old limbs, strengthen yourselves. At that moment, when she feels that she is about to fall, she says that she brings back that courage, she brings back her hope, and she says that old limbs, strengthen yourselves. Your slavery is beginning. So here you could interpret it in different way. I am seeing Hecuba here as a moment of heroism. It's a moment of heroism for Hecuba when she actually says that old limbs, strengthen yourselves. You need to move on. And Euripus is actually trying to give us a lesson that life is like this. There will be sufferings, there will be pain, but we need to keep going. We need to keep on. We need to move on. Your slavery is beginning. So maybe you could think whether that particular line, old limbs, strengthen yourselves, whether that is a moment of heroism or is it like a resigned acceptance of her fate. I would consider more like a moment of heroism, especially with Hecuba. Hecuba is such a strong character who always wanted to hold on to her dignity, and who always had that optimism in her life. And even at this last moment, when she feels that her feet are falling, she says that I won't fall. Old limbs, and she's trying to strengthen her own limbs, and says to old limbs, strengthen yourselves, your slavery is beginning. So Euripus is actually depicting Hecuba as a very powerful and heroic woman here. Chorus, Troy is finished. We must turn our weary feet to the harbor. As you know, chorus is always the voice of reason. It is the chorus is actually the voice of reason, and they are saying, Troy is finished. The city of Troy is finished. We must turn our weary feet to the harbor. But still, we must turn our weary and tired feet to the harbor. The oars are waiting for us. March down to the Achaean fleet. Look at the word, look at the last word. March down to the Achaean fleet. And the use of that verb march, that indicates an action usually undertaken by heroic soldiers. You know that usually the heroic soldiers march, they march down. But here, Euripus is using or employing that word, that verb march, because Euripus wanted to consider this as the heroic battle of the women. So this is usually, even though it is usually undertaken by heroic soldiers marching into battle, entering of women or the entry of women into slavery is considered as a march, as a march. So through that, Eurydice is trying to show that it is a heroic act. All the women of Troy are powerful and they are heroic, and that's why Eurydice has used that particular verb, march down to the Achaean fleet. So Eurydice reverses the usual situation or usual perspective on war. Instead of focusing on the glorification of male military powers and sacrifice, the play turns to female suffering. The play completely focuses on female suffering and transforms the mourning of war victims into an eternal poetic monument. So Eurydice is not trying any, that's the reason why he is using the title Women of Troy. It's not to show the suffering of women, it's not to show just the suffering of women. No, he wanted to show the heroic nature of women who have suffered a lot and still who is hopeful and who is heroic. So Euripus is not focusing on the male here. His focus is not on the male heroism. His focus is not on the male courage, but his focus is completely on the women of Troy who were courageous enough to march down to the Achaean fleet, even though they have lost their city of Troy, their family, their home, and they have lost everything, even the last bit of hope. Still, they are marching heroically. So Euripus is, as I told you before, Euripus reverses the usual perspective on war. He is not focusing on the glorification of male military power, but instead his focus is on the female suffering. And he transforms the mourning of war victims. It is the suffering of war victims and the mourning of war victims into an eternal poetic monument. And that is Women of Troy. That is Women of Troy. That's why we are learning Women of Troy, to show the courage of women of Troy. So on page 60, you could hear the laments of Hecuba and Chorus. By that point, the women have lost all their capacity for stoic, dignified laments and can only cry to their husbands and children beneath the soil and speak of their future suffering. Hope has abandoned them. Even the hope of Troy being remembered has abandoned them. No one will even remember the city of Troy. In those final moments, it becomes clear that the entire play has been one long moment of anagnorisis. When I told you the background, I told you anagnorisis. It's like revelation. They're getting the realization. So one long moment of anagnorisis in which Hecuba has had to recognize how drastically her life has changed, how drastically her life has altered from the position of a queen to a slave. Each lament has been a step towards that realization. Each lament of Hecuba, as well as the women of Troy, has been a step towards that realization, forcing her to confront the extent of her losses. Thus, the women exit. They live with the expectation of further suffering, and that's why Hecuba says, your slavery is beginning. They expect further suffering. Hecuba declaring that her slavery is beginning while the women accept that Troy is finished. So Hecuba tries to be really hopeful there at that moment. So that is why, and even look at the ending, the chorus, the voice of reason says, the oars are waiting, march down to the Achaean fleet. And as I told you before, the use of that verb march is really important. And that's how Euripus is actually reversing the whole situation. His focus is on the courageous act of women of Troy, who has suffered a lot, who hasn't, even though they have lost hope at one moment in their life, still they are holding on to their life. So rather than portraying these women as weak, Euripus is actually highlighting their strength and heroism in the closing lines of the play, especially when he says march down to the Achaean fleet. The women, like soldiers, they turn their weary feet and they march down to the Achaean fleet. And that is an act of heroism unparalleled in the ancient Greek tradition. So Euripides wanted the audience to think about the senselessness and hopelessness of war through the courageous marching of the women of Troy. Euripides suffers heroic status upon each of these women's experience of suffering and degradation. When the battles between men may have been lost and won, the war to remain resilient is ongoing. And the heroic women who fight to remember their lost city will eventually be victorious. So actually the women are victorious here. Because the battles between men and women have won and lost many times. The war to remain resilient is ongoing. So that's what they have done. The Trojan women have been resilient, and that resilience is the victory. The heroic women who fight to remember their lost city will eventually be victorious. So Euripides is actually trying to focus on the resilience of women. How they have suffered, even though they have suffered a lot, how courageous they are, how heroic and powerful they are. So that is what Euripides wanted to show through his play, Women of Troy. So we could say that Euripides is not trying to focus on the sufferings of the women of Troy. No. He wanted to show the courage and heroic nature of women. And that it is the reason why he uses the voice of reason chorus to say that we have to march down to the Achaean fleet. Exeunt, Hecuba, Talthybius, and chorus. So towards the end, the audience is actually denied the catharsis at the end. I told you there will be catharsis, purgation of emotions. But towards the end, the audience is denied any catharsis at the end. And instead, they have to live with the realization that the truth the Trojan women had to face is the same truth faced by slaves and women in their own city. So the sufferings, as well as the sufferings of the women, especially the Trojan women, will be the same. They have to have that feeling. The audience, especially the Athenian audience, should have that feeling that the Trojan women have to face the same truth. The slaves and the women in their own city, in their own society, have to face or is facing the same situation as that of the Trojan women. And that is what Europe is trying to show to them. As I told you, even though it is just the male Athenian audience who are watching the play, still Europe is wanted the male audience to think about the slavery and the slavery as well as the situation of slaves as well as women, especially during that time. By thinking about or by looking at the sufferings of women of Troy, at least the audience would think about the situation of slaves and women in their own society. So I definitely think this play Women of Troy is written by Europeans to mainly show the heroic nature of women of Troy, and at the same time, he wanted to show the senselessness and hopelessness of war. That is the main theme: senselessness and hopelessness of war. And but the ending is in a different way because he doesn't want to consider them as or he doesn't want to showcase the women as just suffering people. No, they are at least courageous and they have done a heroic deed. They have suffered a lot. So through their victory, Eurypylus is trying to make the audience to think about the senselessness and hopelessness of war. So that's the end of the text Women of Troy. And there is a postscript. You could, it's like an extra piece of information. You could read that at your own time. I'm not going to read that for you, but try and read it at your own time. So that is the end of textual analysis of Women of Troy. As I told you at the very beginning, I could speak for hours and hours, but I couldn't stop every time for each and every line. But I have tried my best in analyzing the text for you guys. Again, I have missed many points. I have missed many literary techniques. I have missed many interpretations because of the lack of time. But still, at least I believe that you have got something with your text response, especially when of Troy. So if you feel that this is actually helpful for you, please subscribe the channel because I'm planning to make more videos. So subscribe to my channel and try and give me some feedback about my textual analysis. And if you feel that you need more videos like this, please write your comments and give me some feedback so that I can make more videos. So please subscribe my channel as well as like it and try and share it with your friends as well. And as I told you, try and give me some feedback, try and give me some comments so that I know what are the things that I should include, and also that will help me to know whether you have actually liked this textual analysis and the way that I have dealt with the text. Okay, and definitely, as I told you before, I have missed many things, but I did try my best. All right. Thanks for listening, guys. I'll be seeing you again with more analysis, and I will catch you later. Bye for now from Mrs. George.